Hi guys, Tech here, and this is going to be a little bit early of a 3.20 build guide for EA Champion Ballista Totems. The reason why I'm doing this a little bit early is essentially nothing that is changing out of the skill tree changes or is really going to affect this build in any way, shape, or form. It is going to essentially path the same, and it should require nothing more than a very quick POB update once we have that information. But for those of you that want something that you can look at a little bit earlier and then come back to, as well as have a form guide for, I am getting this out a little bit early than I normally would, just because everything that we can indicate what they're changing shouldn't affect this whatsoever. So I have fairly high confidence that this is just going to be like the update to 3.2 and we're good to go. If it is even that, I will update both the video and the form guide once we have an updated POB and get that out. But I did want to have at least one video that was up, ready to go, and everything kind of as soon as possible. The nice thing about this build, so this is an unID'd rare T16 map, because I wanted to just kind of give you a pretty good range of what the build is capable of, as well as, you know, the mapping and the boss damage and the pace. Now, I am not the fastest player nor eraser, and I want to be very, very clear about that. So this is suboptimal gameplay. That's kind of me. But it does show you kind of that it's not scary. It's pretty easy, straightforward, simple stuff. I don't have it like a giant boss kill montage. I haven't really focused on that too much. Maybe I will this league, like really work on getting all the bosses killed and everything like that. But this worked for Endless Delirium. This worked for 3.19. This is a build that's been good for a while, and it got absolutely zero nerfs whatsoever. It's like the build that didn't get any nerfs at all. So I'm pretty confident. The one big thing, like why choose Champion over Elementalist, is both Champion and Elementalist can hit the Ignite cap, which is 35 million. Champion just has way better defensive scaling because you get the permanent fortify. Plus, I really like the options that the Forbidden Jewels give you as far as extra benefit that you get from either Slayer or from another champion node itself. They're very, very strong, and they have a pretty reasonable start cost. Essentially, the Worthy Foe Jewel, which is what I'm using to get, basically, instead of getting 8 Ascendancy points, I'm basically getting 10. And it cost me 20 C each in League to get those. And they're still around that same cost point, even at the end of the league. And I got them kind of in like week 2, I want to say is when I started playing this character, week 2 or 3. So it should be fairly reasonable. And I do have in the build guide as well as in the notes, basically everything that you need to look for as far as the specifics of what Ascendancy pickups are good, and at least their cost in Calandra, so you can kind of see there's a spread there. The other thing is for the loot filter itself, I will be making a 3.20 update. Now that will likely go, I'll likely post that as soon as it's up, which is normally like an hour or 2 before launch, and I will attach it to the build guides. It'll be a link to a Google Share zip file, essentially, and we'll have every strictness as well as all the sound packs. Now, if you already download the sound packs, which I can include in this one, for the 3.19 filter, I'm using the exact same sound packs. I'm literally just updating it for the things that are new, is all the updated filter. And if you follow my filter page, which I'll put a link for that as well, you can click on it and it will give you access to the newest version, and you can just make that live if you already have the sound pack working. It will work basically on launch. It should. Now, sometimes it gets weird and you have to manually download it as a zip. And I will try to get a video for that particular category out beforehand. So just something to be aware of. But let's go ahead and hop on over to the path of building so I can kind of show you what to expect there. All right, for the path of building portion, down here, there's going to be a multitude of trees. They are going to be color coded and they do match up with the skills and the items. So you'll notice that points 1 through 20 follows through, and all these are color coded. There's a clear and a single target, as well as the Calandra build is my build from Calandra League. So you can use it exactly the same way. Essentially what you want to try to do is get at least Panopticon in this Totem Mastery by level 28. This is normally obtainable. I didn't have any issues with getting to here and getting this anointed before going on and swapping completely over to EA. Now, if you can get Ironwood, that's even better. It's just a quality of life node. These two nodes are quality of life. Essentially, what you want to do when you're starting out is go ahead and go over here, grab Avatar of the Hunt, grab Master of the Arena, pat down, get Golem Blood, and get these guys. Once you get those guys, then you're going to come up here, get Mage Blood. You can get reflexes if you want to. You can also just start pathing over to Constitution, because we're going to go up that way as well. Once we get over here past Constitution, we're just going to path right up through all this wonderful life nodes. And we're going to come over here and we're going to beeline it to Ancestral Bond. Okay. You don't want to get Sovereignty at this point. It doesn't matter that much. And you definitely don't want to go over here. Get Ancestral Bond first. Then you want to go ahead and fill in Sovereignty and Acrimony. Once you do all that, then you're going to go ahead and pick up Elemental Overload. You can go ahead and pick up Spiritual Command. You can go ahead and pick up this attack speed on Precision. You can come over here if you don't want to use the cluster. You want to make sure you have Elemental Equilibrium, and you want to make sure you have Burning Brutality. So this is a lot of Ignite chance right here, which is very, very powerful. That coupled with your Combustion and the Ash really helps you get there. Then there is the cluster variant. You can see how it works. Then there is my actual build with everything from Calandra. So you can kind of play around with this as much or as little as you like. In here, you'll notice that there is a melee and a bow subcategory. I prefer bow. Some people prefer melee, but both are included. These are in order, so you may not have 3 gem sockets to start off with. You may have just 1 or 2. That's perfectly fine. Just as soon as you can get the 3rd, this is the 3rd. That's kind of the order of things that how I do them. Then same thing here. These are in order, so once you get a 4th, throw in faster attacks. These auras, you're only going to run them temporarily, so don't feel like you have to buy them because you're only using them from level 16 to 24. But if you want the smoothest experience, you're going to get Defiance Banner, and then you're going to run either Herald of Purity if you're doing melee, or Herald of Agony if you're doing the bow. Then in Act 3 is when we can switch over to Explosive Arrow at level 28 once we complete Sever the Right Hand. Then there is a Quality of Life setup, as well as a new aura setup, and that's just going to run Purity of Elements and Determination, and then a new utility setup. Now, the reason why there is not an Act 4 onward is, like I said, these are set up in order of importance. If you don't have 4 links for cast when damage taken, that's fine. The most important thing is Flame Dash. Once you have Flame Dash, then you want cast when damage taken, Immortal Call, Lifetime. But Flame Dash is the most important thing. Same thing with the utility over here. Stone Golem is the most important thing. Then Lifetime. Then Arcanist and Flame Surge. Clear, same exact principle. Now, while you're leveling, you're not going to probably have an Empower. You don't have an Empower, that's fine. Use elemental damage with attacks. It's perfectly fine early on. And basically, you can just calculate it by just turning it off or on. But you do eventually want to get those Empowers. If you notice, in single target is where Empower really shines, and it is the most important gem outside of Explosive Arrow. And then, of course, you know, Life Tap, Ballista Totem, because those are basically must. Combustion, and then Focus Ballista. Focus Ballista, again, is not one of those that you have to use. It is if you like to be able to direct it for specific boss fights, it's very, very useful. You don't have to use it. You can also use faster proj here or faster attacks. This is kind of our quality of life setup. This has our culling strike, our movement, our frenzies, all set up into one, our aura path, all that good stuff. When you come over to items, you'll see a basic gear. Now Dawn is in here because this should be your first upgrade. 100% this should be your first upgrade. Now, you don't have to use this, but it is very, very good. It's a very, very big deal. Then there is gold gear, which gives you kind of more high-end gear. You don't have to get every one of these rolls, mind you. You don't have to get every one of them. This is just stuff to work towards to when you can. And then there's my actual gear from Lake of Calandra. And you can see I did the dual setup. So I had a swap. Then there's the lovely notes section. Make sure to really read these very important notes, or if you're not very familiar with how EA Totems works already, because there's several ways that you can absolutely destroy your damage. And if you destroy your damage, it's covered right here on how not to destroy your damage. Then there is the different aura options you can run, as well as the bow attack speed minimum breakpoints. There is a detailed gearing section here, including, this is updated for this one. I do have how to color the bow, just in case you're not as familiar with coloring. And I did add prices to all the forbidden gems listed, so you kind of have an eye available for how expensive those are going to be. Calcs, the one that is important is either your EA clear or your EA single target. You want to come and look at this attack cast rate. That is a very important number. I will refer to it. Notes for the breakpoints, so make sure to double check this number right here. And how you do that is you can import your build, type in your character or your account name, hit start. Once you do, pick the character, import everything, and that will throw it into this calc section. Now it won't be laid out like this. You'll just have to go into, like for me, it would be the Calandra build. Mine would be labeled because I used it to make this. And then I have it labeled again. Yours won't be labeled, but you'll want to select whatever the current build is, go to calcs and look at it and make sure that it matches up, and then reference the breakpoints. This short bow is the minimum you want to hit for crafting. So you want to have a +2 socketed bow with at least 17% attack speed and another +1 socketed gems. This breaks down right here how to achieve that extra +1 socketed gems if you do not roll it naturally. I got lucky on one of mine and I just hit it. If you hit it and you don't have the +17 attack speed, that's fine. Keep that bow and get another 6-link bow when you can afford to, and start crafting on it until you can get everything there. And so this other also has a greater than stat priority. So it'll walk you through life is always better than spell suppression, which is always better than res, which is better than chaos res, which is better than regen. Gem levels are better than attack speed or better than ignite, you know, so on and so forth. So just follow those and that'll give you a pretty good path to figuring out your gearing. I do also break it down a little bit more here. You do want to make sure that you are capped in your gear. So like if you look at the Calandra gear, yeah, so you can see I'm over capped and everything. Now I have prismatic skin anointed instead of watchtower. You can do it this way, you don't have to. Watchtower is actually easier to fix your ballista stacking and your damage. Prismatic skin is just because this was in 3.19 when Arch Nemesis was chaos, and I wanted that chaos to be as little as possible, so I just got the extra +2 to res. You can also run like a brass dome or something of that nature, and that will work perfectly fine as well. That's just something to keep an eye on. But I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And I hope you are excited for the Path of Exile 3.20 Forbidden Sanctum. If you would consider liking and subscribing, it does really help me out. And I hope you have an excellent rest of your day, Exiles. Bye bye for now.